Come on. Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
All right. Once again, we are on. He is Mike Steph. I am the Mojo King, and we are Hidden Gems Football. How are you today, Mike Steph?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good considering. I ain't gonna lie. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But just seeing that red light in the corner saying recording, it just kind of boosted up my energy. So I'm ready to go. How about you, Mo?
I'm doing pretty good. You look extra perky, I gotta say, for somebody being tired. Usually when I'm tired, you could tell. The face just looks done.
Listen, when you're just this dashing, even when you're run down and exhausted, you just have this glow, this effervescence. Shout out to who. Whoa! See, I didn't scream in your ear this time.
I do appreciate it. I usually give the rundown of what we are doing, but if the listeners want the rundown, we're gonna have the chapters and stuff down there. I'm just skipping all that because we have to jump right into it, and we're starting off with Mike Steph's one big thing.
Let me talk to you. This week, my one big thing is what people in the gambling society, in the gambling world, will call a bad beat. If you referred to our episode last week when we did cover the game between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers, I believe that point spread was 7.5 points. And both me and Mo were concerned, not so much that San Francisco wasn't going to win. No. We thought that San Francisco was going to win, but it was that point spread in particular that brought some caution to us. Like, that's 7.5. I don't know if it was 8, maybe we'd do it. But Mo, and I'll give him credit, he actually said what he saw happening was that San Francisco was going to be up by 10, 14 points, and the Rams were going to get a late score just to get below the threshold. He did say that. You know what happened? With 4 seconds remaining and the Rams down by 10, with no chance to win whatsoever, Sean McVay curiously called for a field goal. So they made this field goal to cut the lead to 7 with 0 seconds on the clock, meaning San Francisco effectively beat the Rams by 7 points. Do you know in a lot of sports books, mine's included, it voided out my bet because it was a push? Now, I say all that for this, not so much for the fact that it cost me some money, because my parlay had been blown up already. With the NFL's emphasis on gambling, with the NFL actually having numerous suspensions over the last 2 off seasons for players gambling, not even gambling on the game, not even gambling on the sport, but on other sports just in the facility. You have Calvin Ridley, who had a year suspension for gambling. You had Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions, currently serving a 6-game suspension for gambling. You would think that the NFL would be a little bit more prudent when it comes to the investigation on why did they just mysteriously kick a field goal to get within that point spread. That breeds distrust in the consumer. That breeds distrust in the gambling for me, because I mean, not to put the tin hat on, but a lot of people always think that the NFL goes by script. We know exactly all predetermined outcomes. Yeah, WWE style. So, Mo, I'm going to pass it over to you for your opinion on what you think happened and what should happen with this situation.
Yeah. I heard the alarms on social media about it, and I kind of just shrugged. My original thing was, and the reason I thought that it wasn't really much of an argument was because in my head, you have 4 seconds left. You're down 2 scores, right? You kick the field goal, hope there's 1 second left, and then try to somehow return the onside kick for a touchdown, because that's the only chance you have to score. Because if you throw the touchdown, it's going to take the 4 seconds. Game's over. So you kick the field goal, hope it goes to 3 seconds. You got 1 second left. All right, we still got time for the onside kick. Do the onside kick, run people over, try to recover it, flip it back 1,000 times and score. That's your chance to win. And when you bring up the things about gambling, it really does make me like, I wonder. So I don't know if they did an investigation. I wouldn't blame them.
I think it's twofold. One, I think he's just trying to be the smartest person in the room, because sometimes he does get that vibe. Also, you would think in that drive, right? I think it was a 10-play drive, 55 yards to end the game. They didn't get over. You would think the first opportunity they got over the 50-yard line, being the fact they're down 2 scores, you're going to kick the field goal. But I will get this caveat. The play before the field goal, they was at their 37-yard line. So still, it's a makeable kick, possibly. It's like, 54-yard field goal? And you still leave yourself enough time to get an onside kick. By doing that one extra play, you're pretty much down to 1 play. For all that, go for the touchdown. But I guess he wanted the gimme thing. But still, if you're in field goal range, meaning you're in range to take a shot at the end zone. That's my only caveat. But I guess the NFL is like, look, we're not going to open up that Pandora's box right now.
Right. And I mean, you get a little bit closer to increase your chances of kicking that field goal but the thing is, if there's 5 or 6 seconds, now it makes sense. 4 seconds, kick the field goal. You have 2 seconds left. You get the onside kick, Hail Mary, you got a chance. And I got to say, if a head coach, and I'm not saying McVay is doing this, but if a head coach ever is found gambling, they should be gone for life. It shouldn't even be a consideration. It happened in baseball with Pete Rose. And I know people argue about if he should be in the Hall of Fame, and now he's still the all-time hit leader. And I can see it either way on that. But as far as being allowed back into baseball, as far as a capacity as a coach or something, no way. Because it's too much damage to the integrity of the game. But all right, let's get to the Thursday night game. And that will be the New York Giants going to the 49ers. Having earthquakes again, are we, Mike Steph?
Oh, yes. Even shook my pitcher.
Gotta keep the picture straight. All right.
Definitely.
The 1-1 New York Giants are going to San Francisco to face the 2-0 49ers. The total in this game is 44.5 points. Right now, the 49ers are 10-point favorites. That means Vegas is saying that the Giants will score 17.25 points, while the 49ers score 27.25 points. As far as injuries, the Giants have a big one. Saquon Barkley was helped off the field late in the game with an ankle injury. Reports said that it was a sprained ankle and he will be out for 3 weeks. Then Coach Brian Daboll says he is not ruling him out on Thursday. I'm ruling him out on Thursday. He's not playing. All right. Also, left tackle Andrew Thomas has a hamstring injury. He's questionable. And left guard Ben Bredeson has a concussion, is also questionable. This is really key because that was the good side of their offensive line. The right side's been struggling. On San Francisco's side, they are relatively healthy except for one big injury. Brandon Ayuk is out, limited practice, shoulder issues. Mike Steph, what do you think about the 49ers being 10-point favorites here?
As I mentioned in the very beginning of the season, I'm going to be biased when it comes to all things Giants because I'm not going to slander them. I'm not going to really pick against them. But this 10-point spread with the injuries is really making my job that much harder. I got a couple notes on the Giants that might kind of influence somebody else to pick either for them or against them. Last week, and this is one of Mo's spotlight games last week that he made a point to mention about the Giants and the Cards. Last week, the G-Men trailed the Cards 20-0 at halftime. and 28-14 after 3 quarters. To their credit, they came back to win 31-28 behind a stellar second half. But Danny Jones. Overall, Danny Jones was 26 or 37 for 321 yards, plus 59 yards on the ground, right? But which team are we getting? Are we getting the team that was outscored 68-14 the first 7 quarters of the season? Or are we getting the team that scored 31 points in the second half on Sunday? This Jekyll and Hyde team right now, because if you think about it, in the 8 quarters, they've only been stellar in a quarter and a half against, yes, a dominant Dallas defense, a dominant Dallas team. I'll give them credit. And a very feisty and pesky Arizona Cardinal team that if they had a better quarterback, they might be 1-1. Dare I say they might be 2-0. Now, on the other end, you got the 49ers that keep on chugging along. Purdy has been stellar, if not spectacular. Christian McCaffrey's been as advertised because he's healthy. He's averaging 134 yards on the ground for the first 2 games. That's 6.4 yards per carry. Even with Brandon Ayuk suffering from a sore shoulder, I just believe that 49ers have just way too many weapons, and their defense is just phenomenal, and they're going to feast on their offensive line. So that brings it down to whether or not I think the Giants have a chance to cover. Short week, on the road. My heart's telling me they'll keep it close, but keeping it close in this respect might just be keeping it close to 2 scores, which means 2 touchdowns. So I just can't do it. I'm going to pick the Giants to cover because the one advantage they might have is the fact it's a short week. Because a lot of these Thursday night games in their history, especially the last couple of years, the favorite has won, but they haven't won going away. So I'm going to pick the Giants to cover. As for the over/under, the only chance the Giants have to cover is to keep the score down. So I'm going under with the over and under 44.5, and Giants to cover. Don't take it to the bank, but that's just my personal preference.
Well, I do like the correlation between the staying under and then keeping it close. I like that idea. Interestingly enough, before I get to this game, the overs went 11-4 last week. If you remember week 1, it was all unders. This time it was mostly overs. All right, so the Giants were getting demolished by the Cardinals after getting demolished by the Cowboys. And then they had a miraculous third quarter and especially fourth quarter to come all the way back and win that game. They won against a team that is supposed to be the worst team in the league by far coming into the season. And they're 0-2. They've been feisty, but they're 0-2. Partially because the Giants, I guess they would have been split if the Giants had lost. But I don't know. If you're a Giants, do you want a cookie for that? You barely beat what's supposed to be the worst team in the league, who, by the way, also lost their best defensive player that they still had. I was not very impressed with the comeback. I was impressed with the comeback just because of how quick they did it, but it not going forward. It doesn't mean anything to me going forward. They had 6 terrible quarters. I am a little bit upset because I thought the line would be a little bit closer. I thought the Giants coming all the way back would have sufficed enough to get this down to maybe 8, in which case I would have been super confident to go 49 all-in 49ers. At 10, I'm not thrilled. I still think the Giants cover, though, because I still think the 49ers cover. You know what? It's the San Francisco Giants. That's what I'm thinking baseball. The San Francisco 49ers, I think they will still go over this 10. I think they're going to smother the Giants on defense. Purdy's going to do his Purdy things, and the rest of the team's going to do what they do. Ayuk, I think Ayuk's going to play. Secondly, even if he doesn't, they have so many weapons, I don't think it matters. 49ers are definitely going to be one of my survivor picks for the week, even though, we're going to talk more about survivor on Sunday. I like the The 49ers, even with the 10 points. That over-under, I got to say, the 49ers scored 30 points and then 30 points. So if they put up 30 points again, my only question is, will the Giants put up over 14? I don't think so. So I lean under. I don't think I'd bet that either. I think the 49ers are going to destroy the Giants.
I mean, if you go just by averages, the Giants are only averaging 15.5 points a game. I mean, it's kind of skewed because they did score in the first game, so pretty much everything that they did last year just cut everything in half. But yeah, that's the hard part. Whether and how many points are they going to be able to score to get that over? Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, Vegas has exactly, if you split their scores, right? Like you said, 15.5, the 30, that's 45.5. That puts them slightly over. So, all right, up next. All right, we're moving on to Sunday Survivor picks. And this first game, talking about haves and have-nots. The 0-2 Chicago Bears are going to Kansas City to face the 1-1 Chiefs. The Chiefs are 12.5-point favorites. The total is looking at 47.5. That means Vegas is projecting it out to be the Bears score 17.75, while the Kansas City Chiefs score 29.75. As far as injuries, Chicago's free safety Eddie Jackson is questionable with a foot injury. Meanwhile, wide receiver Darnell Mooney left in the third quarter with a knee injury. It's not considered serious, but he is questionable for this week. On Kansas City side, this is amazing. They're healthy. Let's just jump right into it. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game?
Well, first and foremost, I'm just going to give you my pick, which would be Kansas City money line. That's like a no-brainer, right? It's at KC. KC is healthy, and I say that with quotation marks because not saying that they're not healthy and they're hiding stuff. It's just they scored 17 points last week. I don't think they've broken 20. Have they broken 20 for the year? No, right? So they're 1-1 off a 17-9 victory against the Jags. Surprisingly, they're being led by their defense, believe it or not, early in the season, especially the return of Chris Jones. Interesting stat. Do you know Patrick Mahomes is second on the team in rushing yards? Guess how many yards? 75 yards. Isaiah Pacheco leads the team with 93 yards rushing.
Wait, one question. You said Patrick Mahomes has how many yards?
75.
Do you know how many Fields has?
How many?
62.
And that's part of the problem right there. But matter of fact, I'm gonna leave that for you to get on. Another interesting stat when it comes to San Francisco. When it comes to Kansas City, do you know that 14 different players have caught a pass this season? Which to me highlights the search for a number one option outside of Travis Kelce. Like coming into this season, I think both me and probably Mo, really kind of emphasized the fact that they have all this potential when it comes to, on the outside with the wide receivers. You have Kadarius Toney, you have Sky Moore, you have on and on and on and on and on, right? But nobody's stepped up yet. Tell you the truth, the one person that has stepped up, shoot, I'm so sorry.
Justin Watson, I think, right?
No, the backup tight end, the second tight end.
Noah Gray?
Yes, because from my knowledge, he is I believe he's second in receptions on the team. Well, that's due to Travis Kelce missing one game. But it seemed like Gray has been the option, the number one option outside of Kelsey for Mahomes because that's the person he could trust. There's been so many drop passes. They're just not in sync yet. And we said the same thing last year, especially being the fact that was the first year that they was without Tyreek Hill, that who was going to step up, and they pretty much played the short passing game. They just didn't have the explosiveness, even though they brought in Valdez Scowling to be that deep threat, and he hasn't really, proven himself to be a reliable target for Mahomes. So Chiefs, they're still struggling. Now, for the Bears, they're like the epitome of mediocre. Matter of fact, below mediocre. They're averaging 18.5 points on offense, and they're giving up 32.5 points on defense. They're bottom third of the league in all categories. They have 1 sack as a team. They have 0 interceptions, and they're averaging 14 points per loss. That's pretty much the deficit. I mean, they're losing by 14 points a game. To me, Justin Fields might have regressed. I believe he has regressed. And even with the improved weapons at his disposal, everything is just not coming up. Now, I'm not going to blow my load. I'm going to leave some meat on the bone from Mo. But yeah, that 62 yards rushing in 2 games, especially being how dynamic he was last season on the ground, just spells disaster. So the bottom line, my part, Chiefs for the money line, Chiefs with the over, and Chiefs with the cover of the 12.5. That 47.5. I'm gonna go under. Not so much with confidence in Chicago. It's just right now, still the Chiefs are still trying to figure it out on offense, like to try to stretch it out, and I just don't see them blowing. I don't see them scoring 30 points, even though Chicago is giving up 30 points, but still it's a work in progress. So yeah, under, and Chiefs cover the spread.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you just said there. Yeah, Fields is just not running as much. It looks like they're trying to keep him as a pocket passer, and it's just not his game. So I don't know if this is a year. This is his 3rd year, I believe, right? So are they using his 3rd year to teach him how to be more of a pocket passer, and then year 4 they let him go? Like, I don't really understand what's going on. He showed potential. You saw the way he could be a solid NFL quarterback last year with his legs and a little bit of his arm. If he's not going to use his legs, I don't see what the point is here. So you would think they would open him up to just set more runs and have him run more, but I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I'm with you as far as Kansas City. Kansas City offense has not looked good. I guess the theory here is that Kelsey is now going to have his 2nd week back. He's going to be back to 100%, and this team can do basically what they were doing last year. I like it in theory, but not to bet on it. So my thinking is this: Kansas City is an easy win, easy survivor pick if you choose to. I probably won't even do it because Kansas City is going to be favored pretty much all season. So I probably just save them because there's many other options this week. I'm with you. I'm going on under just because one of these offenses should not. I don't see both of these offenses clicking, even if one does. So for me, 47.5 is too many points. So I'm going. I'm not betting the 12.5 points at all. Kansas City to win and under.
Unfortunately, for Justin Fields, remember, this is not the coaching staff. This is not the hierarchy that drafted him. So they're probably trying to see, all right, well, can he fit into our system going forward? If he cannot fit in our system going forward, and we have another crappy year with this extra first-round pick that we garnered over the offseason, we're gonna have 2 first-round picks. We might have them we might have 2 picks in the top 10 with a deep quarterback field in the draft. I really think to a certain degree, it's almost like they're saying Justin Fields, like sink or swim. Like show us we're willing to move forward with you. If not, guess what? We got about 6 options in this next upcoming draft that could replace you.
Yeah, well, I can see that. But my thing is give him the opportunity to win. Let him do what he does best. Let the team do what they do best. I don't think any team has frustrated me more than the Bears, which is saying something since in the middle of the Giants game, I was saying that they needed to be deported out of the country. All right. Moving on to the next game. The 2-0 Dallas Cowboys are heading to Arizona to face the 0-2 Cardinals. Expect the Cardinals to be on this show a lot because they're terrible. All right. The total is expected to be 43.5 points. The Cowboys are 12-point favorites. That means Vegas is projecting it out to be 27.75 for Dallas and 15.75 for Arizona. As far as injuries, Brandon Cooks was out last week due to a MCL sprain in his knee. He is questionable to play this week. I put it at about 50-50 because they said that he had a chance last week, but I don't think he should be messing with MCL, so who knows? All right, they also had left guard Tyler Smith and free safety Donovan Wilson, both questionable because of hamstring and calf, respectively, but they both are expected to play this week. Meanwhile, on Arizona's side, one injury of significance, pretty big significance, Buda Baker went on the injured reserve with a hamstring. He is out until at least week 7. So, as I pointed out earlier, the Cardinals now don't have their best defensive player. All right. What do you say about this game, Mike Steph?
That's interesting about the Buda Baker situation because the Cardinals, like I said, I think earlier when we was talking about the Giants, the Cardinals, they could easily be 2-0 instead of 0-2, surprisingly. I think that's more of a referendum on what they're really trying to attain in the desert, which was the tank. But the players are keeping everything so competitive that it's like Josh Dobbs is completing passes at 69% rate. But he's only averaging 180 yards passing a game. And that's the difference to me. John Connor has played well, but ultimately they have no explosiveness. Do you know their 2 losses? Interesting stat. Do you know their 2 losses have been by a combined 7 points? Thin line between love and hate, thin line between winning and losing. Here's another surprising stat. You know the defense is 3rd in the league in sacks with 9. They're only behind the team that they're going against, which is the Dallas Cowboys, who lead the league with 10 sacks. You saying that Buda Baker is out for the next 4 weeks at least weakens that defense. And I believe that defense, you wouldn't think about this if you witnessed the second half last week, but their defense has kept them in games. It's gonna look very different. Now on the Cowboy front, they're 2-0. They've outscored New York. New York as a whole. 70-10. Mike McCarthy has lessened the liability of having Dak Prescott cost them games. By leaning on the running game, they're controlling the clock and keeping their dominating defense as is nice and fresh. Last week, they had, 42 minutes of time of possession. That means their defense was on the field for less than 18 minutes for the game. Now, if you have pass rushers such as MVP candidate Micah Parsons, you have Lawrence in the middle, you have Stephon Gilmore on the outside, you have Diggs on the outside, and they're only on the field for 17 minutes for the game, guess how more dominating they're going to be. Excuse my English. Here's another interesting stat. Do you know that Dak Prescott is passing for under 200 yards a game? But coincidentally, they're 2-0. Mike McCarthy has been reinvigorated by calling the plays, by running the offense himself. He feels alive. He feels more alive than he's been in years. And proof is in the pudding. So I say all that to say this. I chose the Jets last week to cover the spread, and it was 9.5. And this point spread is looking oh so tempting because I just think they're just going to smother Arizona. But the last 2 weeks, Arizona has proved everybody wrong, and everybody thought they were going to get blown out, and they didn't. It's in Arizona. I'm going to go, matter of fact, I'm going to make this my pick of the week. Arizona to cover, and I'm going to look like a fool, for Arizona to cover the 12-point spread because Dak is going to Dak. And that's not me saying that Dallas is not going to win. No, Dallas is going to win. But I just think Dak is not going to be able to control himself to throw at least one interception or just make an asinine play, and that's going to lead them to not score when they're already in scoring range. Because, they kicked 5 field goals last week. It could have been actually much worse. So, Dallas to win, Arizona to cover, and the over-under, I'm going to go under because Dallas won 40-0 the first game, and they won 30-10 the second game. Both those games didn't break the 41-point threshold. See? Doing my math. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I thought you were going to say that Dallas is clearly going to score 20 in this game because 40, 30, 20. I like your math much better now. All right. I'm going to be real quick about this. The Cardinals have shown that they're not going to go 0-17, which is what some people were predicting in the beginning of the season. They are feisty. I think just like you said, those players are trying their butts off to win the game. They're just not very talented. One pushback I have is about, you mentioned the sacks that Arizona had. When you look at the quarterbacks they played against, Howell and Daniel Jones, they're both run-heavy quarterbacks. And the reason I point that out is they're more likely to hold the ball to allow somebody to sack them or try to run and not get past the line of scrimmage, which then becomes a sack. So I'm not really overly impressed with the Arizona sack numbers. Meanwhile, the Cowboys have looked so good. So, once again, Cards not going 0-17. This is not the week for their first win. Cowboys easily. I'm taking the 12 points. I don't care. They're going to win by 20. They're going to win by 21. 35-14. Put in the books. That's over as well. The Cardinals are going to surprise and hurt a few teams in Survivor. I just don't think it's this week. All right. Our last game for the week is the Indianapolis Colts. They're heading to Baltimore to face the Ravens. The Ravens are 2-0 and they're 8-point favorites. The total is 44.5 points. That means the Colts will score 18.25, while the Ravens will score 26.25. As far as injuries, the big one up top for the Colts is Anthony Richardson was in concussion protocol. We don't have any answers if he's going to play this week or not yet. That's going to be, you're probably not going to know that until at least Saturday. Gardner Minshew is the backup there. Also, the center, Ryan Kelly, also is questionable and in concussion protocol. I think whoever they played last week, you might need to check the defensive lineman for putting some casting in their gloves there, like cheating boxers do, because there's a lot of concussions going around. On Baltimore side, Lamar Jackson ends up on the injury list. He had a left hand injury. It was they described it as a stinger, which I think would have been his shoulder got hurt and it affected his hand. But he said he's fine. He was flexing his hand, showing it to the reporters when they asked him about it. So he should be okay. Odell Beckham went out with an ankle injury. He saw him limping off the field. Apparently, he's expected to play as well. Meanwhile, on the questionable list, I think Baltimore just likes throwing people on questionable lists. Like how Kansas City had nobody there, and you're kind of like, somebody has to be hurt. Baltimore also on the injury list. Left tackle, their center, the inside linebacker, free safety, and right cornerback are all questionable. We don't have any definitive answers on where those guys are going, but I think most of them are going to play. All right. Mr. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game?
I'm looking at first glance, I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be interesting because you have Lamar Jackson and you have someone on the other side that people would think might be the new and improved Lamar Jackson, just a bigger version." But there is a concerning thing that's going on. 2 games in, he's been knocked out of both games. First game with the knee, second game with the concussion. The offensive line isn't great as is, and the one thing I will say is his completion rate has been much improved during these 2 games than it was in the preseason. So they're scheming. The scheme is allowing him to be more efficient. Now, if he can learn how to, I don't even know how you could say, learn how to protect himself a little bit more, or maybe the coaching staff can learn not to put him at risk so early in his career, because he, at this point in time, he's not going to make it through a 17-game season. I mean, like I said, he's been knocked out 2 games already. The Ravens, a couple of interesting stats. I swear that's going to be my catchphrase this week. Interesting stat. The Ravens are first in third down efficiency in the league, converting at a 58% clip. That means they're continuing drives, they're matriculating down the field, and they're keeping the opposing defense on, which wears them down as the game progresses. Lamar Jackson, for all his prowess as a runner, he's completing 74% of his passes so far this season. Another interesting stat. Zay Flowers. Matter of fact, do you know that Zay Flowers has twice as many catches as the closest receiver on the team, and he has 13? OBJ and Bateman have 11 catches combined. So, makes you wonder, Zay Flowers, is he the best wide receiver on that team currently? Has he developed camaraderie with Lamar Jackson to the fact that Lamar is looking for him first? He's becoming the number one option. Is he just that dynamic that he's always open, or is it being schemed that way? You never know. But 74% by Lamar Jackson, and Zay Flowers has twice as many. I think it's a combination of both. I say all that to say this. Baltimore, I'll say Baltimore money line, but Indianapolis, yes, you have Gardner Minshew, but Gardner Minshew is a competent. If Gardner Minshew starts, he's a competent backup quarterback. I believe he should be able to run the offense. Maybe he might not be as dynamic as Richardson, but he should be able to run the offense just as well as Richardson. And Baltimore, albeit, the first game of the season, they did have a double-digit victory over the Texans, but they pulled away in the second half. That 8 points, I think Baltimore is going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think Indianapolis is going to keep it close. Dare I say they might scare them in the first half, and Baltimore might, sort the game away in the second half. But I'll go Baltimore money line, Baltimore survivor. Baltimore's not covering. I believe the Colts are going to cover that 8. And as for the over/under, once again, my philosophy: if the Colts are going to have any type of chance, they got to keep that score down. Under.
All right. One thing about the Zay Flowers thing is that I know in game 1, they really schemed Flowers a lot in the beginning to get him open. With that said, I think you might be right. He might be out of the wide receiver crew. He might be the ones that they trust and think is the best right now. Odell hasn't done much, but coming off an injury, do they really want him to have a lot of action? And then he got banged up anyway in week 2. But remember, Mark Andrews wasn't there for game 1. And now he's back. I think he is their true number 1, as you know, obviously is out of the tight end position. I agree a lot with a lot of what you said. I'm a little bit curious about why Baltimore is 8-point favorites when Indianapolis looked pretty dominant last week. Granted, it was against Houston, but I think they're just assuming that Richardson is out, and that's the reason they have an 8-point favorite. I don't like this game at all. I'm not touching it in Survivor. Baltimore should win, but this is not the time for me to pick Baltimore. I want to see Baltimore click a little bit more. Cincinnati's been struggling, so they defeated Cincinnati, a tough, what should be a Super Bowl contender, Cincinnati team, 27-24 last week. But Cincinnati's not looking like that right now. So I don't really know what to make of that win. The game against Houston, remember, it was tight for the first half, and then they pulled away. So I'm not sure all things are clicking for the Ravens, although they're 2-0. The Colts, I'm not exactly sure where they are either. So I don't like the spread. I'm not doing it. The one thing I will say is that, especially if Richardson plays, I'm definitely going with the over, because I think Lamar Jackson 1.0 and Lamar Jackson 2.0 would be pretty exciting, and I think they'll put up some points. All right. We've gone through the Survivor plays. Mike Steph, do you have another game, an upset special or something like that you'd like to point out?
The game, it's not so much of an upset, but a game of interest of mine. Involves 2 underachieving teams this season. That would be the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. A battle of 0-2 teams, and I believe there's a high probability that the loser of this game can pretty much kiss their season goodbye. But you got to think of it like this, and I'm contradicting myself already. Being the fact that 17 games in the season, can we really put all the stats of 0-2, 0-3 in the same perspective as we've done in seasons past, because you have an extra game? So 0-3, still shaky. But I don't think it's the nail in the coffin that it would be in years past. Also, in the NFC North, and this is shooting Minnesota some bail. In the NFC North, I think the lead is 1-1. So if Minnesota is 0-3, and let's say the lead is 2-1, they're only 2 games back. And they have shown the potential on offense to put up points. It's just they have Kirk Cousins. So, Kirk Cousins is just he's gonna Kirk Cousins is their glass ceiling. That's what it really boils down to. Now, you know who the glass ceiling is on the Chargers? Brandon Staley. Do you know I didn't realize that the year that they hired Brandon Staley, they interviewed Brian Dable. And they chose Brandon Staley over Brian Dable. Do you know, or this is how I feel, if they would have got rid of Brandon Staley after last offseason, after that debacle, maybe Sean Payton would be in LA instead of Denver. Could you mean to tell me Sean Payton wouldn't love to have Justin Herbert over washed up Wilson? Let's ride. I don't know. But yeah, that's one of those games. I think it's pretty much a pick 'em. They got the Chargers favored by a point on the road. So I would go with the I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Chargers, just for the fact that I really want the bottom to fall out for the Chargers so they can really get a real coach in there, because right now they're wasting prime years of Justin Herbert. And with that defense, you have a defensive coach, and your defense can't get a stop for nothing. You have Bosa, you have Derwin James, you have Khalil Mack, and y'all can't get a stop for nothing. You got J.C. Jackson. You got a defensive coach. I want the bottom to fall out. So yeah, that's my game. That's our spotlight game of the week. Vikings over the Chargers.
All right. I think you hit every single point of that. So I'm not even going to follow it up with anything. But you're right. That is an amazing game. And whoever ends up 0-3, 17 games or not, is going to be a big uphill climb to try to make it through. The one game we didn't mention as far as Survivor, the Houston Texans are going to face the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a 9-point favorite. I think that's a pretty easy selection too. That will definitely be on some of my Survivor picks to the Jaguars. Actually, I really like what Stroud is doing there in Houston. I just don't think he has the pieces to really help him. Nico Collins is their number one receiver. All right. With that said, I think that's the end of the episode. Mike Steph, take us out.
Yeah, this has been a very informative episode of Hidden Gems Football. You know, who do you go to when you want all the information, all the scoops, all the interesting stats, all the breakdowns, all the 17 and 3/5 point spreads? You come to us. You come to us. You come to the MoJoKing. You come to Mike Steph. You come to King Switch. You come to the 19 Media Group. And all that being said and done, Hidden Gems Football has been a part of the 19 Media Group. Goodbye.
Next week.
Baby, won't you give it to me? I give it to you. You know what you want. I want to go. That was ridiculous.
Yo,
that was ridiculous.
That guy's wilding.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
I like this episode. Yeah. I like it. I mean, I like them all, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, shoot. I mean,
notes. Had to trust the notes.
Yes. Yeah, let's go. I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get the story. Because you're like, yeah, which score? Yeah, the Giants. They project the Giants to have 16 and 3/8. I'm like, what the hell?
Man, as soon as you get that, you won't need me anymore.
Oh,
but
listen.
until then, I'm still here. All right. And that is Brandon Ayuk. He's been limited in practice with a sore. So I can never get those two S's right. Sore shoulder. Sore shoulder.
Never
sore shoulder. Yeah, forget those pronunciations. I'm just glad we're not talking about the Rams, so I don't have to try to get that wide receiver's name again. All right.
Puka Nacua.
There we go. I need to learn it because the guy's amazing. He's breaking all these records. All right. Oh, good catch. There you go. Yeah.